Want to get started?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. So what are the reasons esports betting has suddenly gotten so popular? Because it has been largely ignored for the longest time, though it has been existing for quite a long time. But a lot of people have investing into it recently, hoping they win a lot of cash, quite often losing a lot of cash. Is there any logical explanation for it, or do people just slowly pick up on it because it gets more exposure?
So first of all, the way I would parallel betting on esports is it's like betting on regular sports. It tends to make the experience of watching sports more fun and engaging. You know, when you place a bet, you're going to watch it from beginning to end. People tend to get more involved in the sport, so they tend to learn, study the players, learn more about the game. And placing a bet should be fun. It should not be something that becomes a problem. And this is why when we set out to build this company, we set out to build a responsible and safe environment for people to bet on esports. So we partnered with one of the largest publicly traded, most responsible betting companies in the world. It's called Tab Corp. They're based in Australia. And the other reason we decided to do this in esports is because it's a very unwatched and unregulated area, and there's this undercurrent of people that are doing a lot of skin betting, which I'm sure you've heard of,
Yeah.
it's dangerous because there's kids that are actually betting on games with skins that have a real intrinsic value, and that is a problem. That to me is catering to is actually preying on an audience that it shouldn't happen. Like no 13-year-old kid should be betting on skins ever. So Unikrn exists to bring exposure to this area, to bring regulation in, and to bring more of a mainstream validity to esports and betting. Yeah.
So you already touched on a few things that the next question is about, actually. If there are any risks involved in esports betting, and if it could get as bad or as addicting as other forms of gambling. Like everyone knows that one guy who always goes to the slot machine and is very poor afterwards. We also touched on the younger clients, so they don't have much money, but they still want to bet. Um, is there anything in place on your site currently that minimalizes the dangers of that happening?
Yeah, so absolutely. The first thing that you should note is that any reputable betting company would focus on responsible gambling, which is if you notice on the footer of our website in the locations where we accept real money betting, there's we can spot problem gambling and that sort of thing. We haven't had that issue at all because people place novelty bets on esports typically. So betting responsibly is like our number one thing. We want to make sure that people are doing it for fun. They're having a good time on our site. They're getting they're winning or sort of mixing it up. Some people win and lose, but it's being spread out to a wide audience. So it's like anything else. Like with betting. Betting on sports, if you go to places like Australia and the UK, it's a part of culture. I mean, people have been doing it since the dawn of time. It's normal. They bet on everything from horse racing to rugby to football, and now they're betting on esports. And as the age group for esports fans gets older, it's only going to get bigger, right? And it is a younger audience, but our customers are minimum 18. As people get older in esports, they will continue to bet and they'll continue to get deeper into the space. I would say that it's better to have, like, it's happening no matter what. Betting on everything happens no matter what. So it's better to have safe, regulated, places that are licensed to do this than have places that prey on people and don't worry about licensing or any ethics at all. So I think that's what differentiates us, and that's why, I think it's important that we exist.
Yeah, I agree, because there's a lot of places where there's not a safe betting environment. Um, and you've also touched up on this a bit already. Do you think the people who use your website to bet money on their favorite teams still enjoy esports the same way they did before? Because it's quite common, even though you cheer for Team A, that you still like applaud and cheer for Team B when they make a big play. But as soon as money is involved, do you think they would still cheer for the other team, knowing that they might lose money because of the good play that just happened? Or will they go like, no, this is not good?
Yeah, I mean that's the idea, in sports you have a favorite team. Sometimes you bet on the favorite, sometimes you bet on a team that you think is going to win. You're always going to cheer for the one that you bet on, no matter what, right? And but that's what makes it more exciting. I mean, that's what will bring more mainstream viewers into esports. Our hope and our plan is to bring more people who love traditional sports to watch esports, even though they don't play the games. And in order to do that, we have to have people kind of understanding, the games, learning about the games, that sort of thing, and then placing small bets so they can, they can watch the games and get more engaged on it. I think betting on esports is the one way to bring on more mainstream people into the space, and that's really good for the industry. It's great for the players. It's when we first started this company, there were people in the community who were supportive, and then there were people in the community who were skeptical. And the skeptical people are saying, these guys aren't going to help the community at all. How is this going to help the players? And that's just not true. I mean, we're reinvesting back in. We're sponsoring teams. We're supporting players. We're doing all sorts of stuff in the community, and we're bringing more mainstream viewers into the space, than before, and we're going to continue doing this. So I think it's important to note that wagering on sports is something that exists on every sport, and it will continue to exist in esports. Yep.
And where do you see the biggest difference between sports betting and esports betting?
I mean, there's not a huge difference other than the fact that, if you're a football fan or a rugby fan, it's a very jarring experience to watch a League of Legends game if you don't know how to play the game. So the big difference is getting people who don't know how to play to understand the game. That's a challenge, and I don't know that that's something that will happen, quickly. But I do think over time, more people will start to pay attention as it gets more broadcasts and things like that. They'll start to pay attention to it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You want to know why? Because the audience for esports is growing. It's massive. There's fans that are there already, and it's only getting bigger. So as that older audience who doesn't understand esports ages, they'll become dinosaurs and nobody will care anymore. So I mean, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because this community is large enough to grow and sustain itself. Yeah.
Do you think at some point esports will be bigger than traditional sports?
Yeah, there's no question. I totally think that. I think traditional sports will always have its place. And this probably scares a lot of people, thinking, "Oh my God, people are just going to sit in their rooms like zombies and play games." But it's just not like that. I mean, there's people in esports who are athletic, who take care of themselves. The idea that a gamer is just a lazy person is just not true, right? Esports is a very mentally challenging. It can be physically challenging. It can be. It's about twitch speed, movements, your ability to think really quickly. It's very exciting. I think that sports like F1, for example, will be the first to go, and there'll be other sports that will sort of wane. But esports is only going to get bigger. So I do think it'll start to take on traditional sports. And over time, it'll be probably one of the biggest sports, right? As long as the titles keep coming. And they're super interesting. I think that it'll sustain itself for some time to come.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And to go a bit away from all the betting stuff, you recently picked up an all-female CSGO team.
Yeah.
To compete in official tournaments as well. What made you decide to choose a female team over a male team? Because the environment is kind of male dominant. if we are honest.
It actually is. It's overly male dominant. I hate to say it, but look, I can say this because I'm a gamer and I've been gaming longer than most of the people in this community because I started the world's first PC gaming manufacturer, Voodoo. So I've been doing this forever, and I can't tell you how many times I've been in games where there's been like sexist, misogynist, comments. There's very male dominated. People make comments all the time, and it's horrible, right? It makes it very uncomfortable for women who want to play the games. You always look at like, why do women play bots in League of Legends? Because they don't want to play with real people because they're abusive sometimes, right? The communities can be toxic, and that's horrible. So for me, if you look at esports just at a very high level, the opportunity it's a one sport, where you can have men and women on the same team compete against men and women on another team, or you could have, they can compete with each other or against each other. It doesn't really matter. Ideally, that's what we would be doing. The challenge is, there's a lot of reasons why you start with all women team first. That's about competition. They got to work together. They sometimes have to live together. There's a lot of complexities that come along with that. So we want to start, by supporting women in esports. We want more tournament providers to support it, even if it's just undercard events. So the majors should support women undercards. They have to, because the fact that they don't is a real disappointment. And I think people have to step up and say, just do it. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch women play the games, just as it's fun to watch men play the games. And eventually, I'd love to see it mix up. Look, I remember a time when Dana White, the head of the UFC, said there would never be a woman in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. He said those words, and those words have haunted him since he said it, because after Ronda Rousey came in, she completely changed the sport, and she became the headliner, the biggest headliner fighter out of all their fighters. She draws more viewers than anybody else. She's a bigger brand than John Jones and all the other fighters. And she changed the sport, and I think that's where esports is at. I think esports, we can get women in, we can encourage them to play, we can create an inviting and fun environment for them to be there, and just the tournament providers need to start like saying, yes, let's do this, let's get women, women's teams going, and then ultimately let's break the barriers. And the ones that performed, it should be about performance. If there's a top performing woman who can compete against men, or a top performing man who compete against women, it should be about that, and you should be able to create balanced teams where they can compete against each other, right?
Yeah. So this is not just for yourself, but you're trying to make a statement here as well, to push the whole thing forward finally, because there were quite a few teams who tried the all-female team. I don't know if you have heard about Team Siren in League of Legends.
I have. So,
yeah.
so look, there's a way of doing it, and then there's a way of doing it that becomes gimmicky, right?
Yes.
When you come across and say, yeah, we're gonna beat the boys, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and it's very gimmicky where you parade women around and that sort of thing. It's not good, because it actually induces more of that sexist behavior and more of that toxicity that we don't want. Look, I promise you, there's so many good people in the community. When you ask them, would you support women in esports? They all, like, majority of them say yes, right? Majority of them want to see it, but they just want to see it at a credible, authentic level. They don't want to see women coming in for the sake of being women and being beautiful. They want them to come in for the sake that women can compete, and they want to compete, and they want to compete at the highest levels. And we want our team, we want the Team Unikrn to compete at the highest levels, so they can make a living doing this. It's not easy being a woman in esports trying to make a living as a professional player. The men get paid way more money because the men are invited to all the majors. There's a lot more revenue opportunities for them, and meanwhile, there's just not enough opportunities for the women. So we have to start somewhere, and the way it should start is at a philosophical level. The team owners who set up all women teams, they should make it about competition primarily, not about women and making them look good and all of that stuff. It's got to be about competition. They have to be competitive. They have to be really good. And if that's what they do as their primary principle, then we'll actually get there sooner than later.
Issue is that most teams don't do that. They just want to get like all the fans to like the team, which well, it works in some ways, but those teams usually disband really fast.
Yeah.
But happens. So, is it coincidence that all the players in Team Unikrn are from Europe, or is it actually that Europe is the stronger region? I know this is like an old battle.
No, it's a great question. Europe is a much stronger region for esports. It really is, especially for women in esports. It just is. In the U.S., it's harder. It's disparate. We wanted to keep them somewhat close together, so if they need to get together for boot camps and stuff like that, they can just get together and play. But yeah, women in Europe, esports in Europe is just generally stronger. And plus the fact is you've got different countries so close together, and each of those countries esports is very, very popular. It's easy for them just to sort of get together and play. Whereas in the U.S. it's one big country, and you have to get people from all across the country that are really into this space, and it's just harder. Typically Europeans tend to be better. And so we'll see how that changes in the future, but that's what it is at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. So I saw on your website that you're looking for a team manager in Berlin here for the CSGO team actually. Are you thinking about expanding the business as well, setting up offices on other continents than America maybe? Or is this solely for the CSGO team?
Oh, no, actually, look, we have an office in Berlin already. So Unikrn has a development office in Berlin. My CTO lives in Berlin.
I could have gone there for the interview.
Yeah. So our CTO lives there because he is I've known him for a very long time. We've worked together for a long time. Very talented people on our team in Berlin. So yeah, we have a team there. We'll continue to grow out our office in Berlin, and then we have an office in Seattle as well. We also have one in Australia, and we'll continue to sort of build out Seattle and Berlin as our bases. Yeah.
Good to know. I live in Berlin.
Yeah.
So do you have, as we already touched upon the offices, do you also have plans to pick up teams for other games? I initially wanted to ask if you want to pick up a League of Legends team as well, but since you're a betting company, you're not allowed to compete.
Well, so we'll see how that changes over time. Like my guess is that Riot will come around eventually and understand the value that we bring into the space. Like, I want to give you an example, okay? So a couple of things. Unikrn set up this integrity program. This is really important. We set up the first integrity program on esports. And the idea is not just to spot sort of cheating, but it's, we can spot anomaly bets on 15-to-1 underdogs, for example, where if the underdog is getting a ton of bets, we can spot that. We can pause the betting. We can let the tournament provider know they need to do an investigation and figure out what exactly is happening. We're doing things around DDoSing. We're doing things around competitive integrity, player integrity, all of that sort of stuff. When I think about like esports, a lot of that stuff happens a lot. Like DDoSing happens often. In fact, yesterday there was a tournament. There was a women's tournament where Team Unikrn was getting DDoSed, right? And
guess they were scared.
Yeah. So but whatever. It's part of the game that happens. The unfortunate part was that there was excuse me, there was a lot of skin betting going on in that game, and the site that supports that skin betting went ahead and paid out those people. We would never do that. We would actually stop the betting immediately. In fact, we would then go to the tournament provider who would be sanctioned by us as a authentic competitive integrity tournament provider. They would have to pause the tournament and then fix the situation before they went on. I mean, that type of stuff has to happen in order for this space to be legitimate. Otherwise, you're always going to have garbage like this happen. That's one example. Another example is, imagine a day where you can bet on yourself in a game or something like that. There's so much scripting that happens on League, and it's really prevalent. I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen scripting, and I cannot believe how crazy it is. I mean, it's so easy. You can pick a champion. There's a drop-down menu. You can tell it what you want to do. You can auto CS, auto dodge, your skill shots, all sorts of stuff. And it's way too easy to do that. And I know Riot is trying to crack down on that sort of stuff, but there's one sure way you can crack down. It's when betting companies get involved. We can spot these anomalies, and we can let them know. Hey, look, this is scripting. This person is scripting. You should ban this person, or fine them or something, right? So that stuff happens often, and we're here to help bring legitimacy to make sure it doesn't happen. Simple, right?
So, 1 second. So you actually do plan to, at some point, invest into, or like create a team for other games as well? Because
what I would say is we're not limited to just having an all-female CSGO team. Like we're looking, we're always looking, right, for opportunities. Our investors are very excited about what we're doing. We've got a lot of opportunities ahead of us. So we never say never, and we're always looking for new opportunities. So we'll see. Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Is it important to have people with actual esports experience, as in playing the game themselves, working for you, such as Snoopy?
How do you mean? Is
it the experience he brings as a former competitive player himself? Is it something, well, obviously valuable, but is it something that a company like yours needs? Or is it just nice information to have? No,
look, we all are gamers at the end of the day. We've been in this industry for a long time. Many of us have been in the industry forever. Having someone like Snoopy is great because he's got experience as a professional player and what it was like being a professional at one point in time. But at the end of the day, the DNA of Unikrn is a mix of like all sorts of gamers and esports fans. And so we live, eat, breathe, sleep this stuff, and I think it's important to do that in order to build a successful company. Yeah.
Good answer. So just a few days ago, you were featured as one of the top 10 most promising startups in Seattle on GeekWire.
Yeah.
What do you owe this success? Oh God, my English today. Sorry.
No. Hey, by the way, your English is much better than my German, so it's okay. It's fine.
So to what do you owe this success? Is it simply leading a company in the right way, or is it, especially for this industry, heavily reliant on people actually using your website and building connections?
So, look, I'll say this. I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. With my previous company, Voodoo, sold to HP. After that, I had started a couple of other startups, and then eventually I joined Microsoft, and I started Microsoft Ventures. At Microsoft Ventures, I got to work with startups from around the world. We even opened an accelerator in Berlin, and I was there for the opening of the accelerator in Berlin. So we opened accelerators around the world. I got to work with, personally hundreds of startups from around the world, and I took a lot of the experiences from Microsoft and brought that into my own venture. I think when we started Unikrn, we eliminated as much risk as we could. At the beginning, and we really put a lot of thought into the business. We got key partnerships in place. We brought in some amazing investors, and I think we owe most of the success to just the team that we built. We have an amazing team. The people are dedicated. They love this stuff, and they're super, super passionate about it. I mean, we're often at the office and late in the night playing games and also working. So yeah.
Yeah. That's how it should go.
Yeah.
Since you touched upon your investors already, you got people like Marc, Cuban and Ashton Kutcher to invest into your company. Was this a surprise for you? Like, did you expect this kind of support when you started the journey to creating your own company?
Yeah, I mean, like I never really expected it, but when we got the incoming calls from them, it was sort of it was nice, right? It was validation that we're doing something good, and and so I never really expected it, but the opportunity was there for them to come in. They loved it, and they're part of our business now, and we're fortunate to have them. We're fortunate to have all of our investors. We have some amazing investors on board, including people like Liz Murdoch and Sherry Redstone and, you know, Marc, Cuban, Ashton Kutcher, Binary Capital, Tab Corp. We have some of the best investors we could ever dream of. And, you know, we found investors that were as excited about our space as we are, because they can add value, you know, and that was important to us. So, yeah.
Considering the fact that you also have a family, was it scary to leave your relatively safe job at Microsoft to start your own company? Like, obviously it wasn't the first you started, but the other ones were quite a bit ago, I reckon, so.
So was it scary for me, you're saying?
Yeah, like, did you have any doubts, like, oh, what if it goes wrong? What if it
No,
doesn't
no.
end
So
up what
look,
I wanted?
I've been a born and bred entrepreneur. You know, when you take a risk, you take a risk, and you know that it's either going to fail or work. So no, I mean, I left Microsoft with full excitement to go and be an entrepreneur again. I mean, I was there for 3.5 years. I had a good time, but I can't be at a big company that long because I start to go crazy, you know, trying to think about what's next. So to me, this was just another day, you know, doing something I love to do, right? Yeah.
And
I mean, look, I'm doing this interview with you, you know, after like short, not short notice, but in terms of like making the decision to do it. You know, you suggested we do the interview, boom, made the decision, we're doing the interview. If I was at Microsoft, it would have to go through person to person before I could actually get approval to do an interview, right?
yeah, this sounds like when journalists wants to interview a pro player.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
If I wanted to get, you know, anything done there, it would be hard. But you know, this is great. It's my own company. I get to do whatever we want, you know, and whatever I think is good for the business. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And how did you come up with the name Unicorn? And what made you decide to start a company in the betting area?
So the name Unicorn. When I think about like you know, building a company, when I'm going to go back to my Voodoo days when I started Voodoo. You know, we could have called ourselves Data PC, for example, and I never would be here today, right? The fact that we called it Voodoo and made it unique was super interesting. Unicorn is sort of that idea. You know, we could have called ourselves esports betting company, but we're way more than that. You know, we feel like we're here to make esports amazing and accessible to everybody, right? And betting is a component of our business that we launched first, but there's other components that we're going to build out. So Unicorn sort of describes the kind of people we are. You know, unicorns are rare or non-existent, and the people that we hire are all unicorns. They're all very unique. They all have value to bring, and they all are you know, different. Like they're misfits. You know, and that sort of describes the type of team that we hire. And the product we're building is very unique. So, you know, so I think that's why we came up with the name Unicorn. Yeah.
I like it. So you just already mentioned that you're not going to keep it betting only, but also looking into other stuff. Can you tell us anything about it, or is it still like under the blanket?
It's still sort of under the blanket, but what I would say is, look, you know, for example, we launched the Unicoins, which is a non-currency betting product that people can come on and they can earn Unicoins by doing things like trivia and stuff like that, and then they can take those Unicoins and bet them if they want to increase their Unicoins holding. And then they can convert them for chances to win skins and prizes and things like that. And it doesn't cost anything. It's completely free. You know, we're looking at other things we can do to make esports more engaging. And I think you'll find over the next few months there'll be a lot more happening on the Unicorn site to do that. So.
Well, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And last but not least, that we have talked business for a long time now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself, like what you enjoy doing in your free time? Because I know you like playing League of Legends, but do you enjoy any other titles as well?
Yeah. Okay. So I do enjoy League of Legends. I probably enjoy it a little too much lately, but I enjoy it. I play. I mean, I try all kinds of games. So I'm sort of attempting Heroes of the Storm a little bit. I'm trying to get into it. It's really hard for me to get into. I like CSGO, although as I get older, it's very hard to play CSGO because of the twitch movement that's required, and I'm always getting killed, and I don't know why. I like Call of Duty, so I'm a huge Call of Duty fan, and I play them from beginning to end. And then on top of that, outside of games, I do things like cycling. I'm a wake surfer. I like wakeboarding, so I like being on the water. And I like racing cars. So that's the kind of stuff that I like to do. But in terms of games, I think those are my top titles. League of Legends is all consuming for me at the moment. It's a very, very fun game. But when I started to see the scripting problem that's happening, it's very frustrating for me because I've played against people that I know are scripting, and it's just like, why am I bothering?
Yeah, I think everyone has met that one person.
Yeah.
And then there's the other guy. No, he's not scripting. He's just good.
Oh yeah, just good. Just like a Yasuo who throws up a wind wall into a bush, like
Yeah.
whatever.
So final question.
Hmm?
What is your rank in League of Legends?
I'm silver 3.
Well, that's already better than a lot of people. So.
Well, it's not good enough. I wanted to make it to gold, but as you know, it can be very frustrating when you're trying to rank up and you're playing with people who don't put wards down, and you try and educate them on wards and
That's
stuff.
what they all say.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're playing against the person who's scripting. I find rank actually not very fun. It's too stressful. I like to go into team builder and just play, and win or lose, I don't care. But when you go into rank, it feels like a job, and it feels like if you fail, you failed, and it actually is very emotional for me, to play rank that way. So I could envision a day where we help to deal with scripting. I don't know. We'll see. But I do think stuff like that can be frustrating. It can take the fun away of the game. Yeah.